Welcome to Mental and Emotional Health 6, the emotion process, which is the beginning of Chapter 2, How Does the Mind Heal? We'll begin today's video with a brief introduction to Chapter 2, where we'll identify 3 inner processes which enable the mind to heal. Then, after the introduction, we'll begin Chapter 2 by looking at how emotion becomes encoded in the brain as a resource. Then we'll see that emotions are like packets of rapid intelligence. And finally, we'll explore what I call the emotion process. Hi, before we begin Chapter 2, I'm going to put up on the screen the main takeaway points from Chapter 1. So if you'd like to refresh your memory on these, you can pause the video now. Now let's begin with a little introduction to Chapter 2, How Does the Mind Heal? In all the neuroscience and different therapies I've been studying, I've noticed that there are some common themes and principles which pop up time and time again. For example, there appears to be 3 main processes which enable the mind to heal. Each of these processes are already built into our system, which explains why some people recover from trauma without any professional help. So let's take a look at them, the 3 inbuilt processes which enable the mind to heal. The first we've already explored in detail. It's the pain alarm, which is our automatic emotional reaction to unmet needs. The second process is memory reconsolidation. This is where transformation really happens. We've touched on this process too, and I'll touch on it again today. And later in Chapter 4, I'm going to unpack memory reconsolidation in detail. And then there's a third process which ties the first 2 together, which is what we'll explore today. I call this the emotion process. Very simply, the emotion process begins with the pain alarm, which drives us to take positive action to get our needs met. This positive action can then lead to transformation of painful living memories through memory reconsolidation. And as a result, we experience a sense of triumph and empowerment. For people with good mental health, the emotion process happens automatically and unconsciously. So let's look at how the emotion process works. And we'll begin with our automatic response to the pain alarm. For the emotion process to be able to do its job, we need to be able to respond positively to the pain alarm. But our response is determined by much more than our conscious decisions. How we respond to the pain alarm depends on how emotion, as well as our urges to act on emotion, were encoded in our brain. In other words, what did we learn deep in our childhood brain about emotion and our urges and actions which are driven by that emotion? Years ago, when our brain was first forming, our parents or caregivers responded to our emotions in a particular way. And how they responded then determines how we react to our emotions today. For example, Timmy falls off a swing in the playground and starts crying. Mum quickly arrives on the scene, holds Timmy in her arms and gives him the connection, validation and the protection that he needs. Now it only takes a few of these positive experiences for emotion and the natural urge to cry which comes with the emotion to be encoded in Timmy's brain as a good thing, a resource. His pain alarm is uncomfortable, but it brings Mum who gives him what he needs. So Timmy knows right down to the level of his nervous system that painful emotions are there to help. And this is absolutely true. But in the modern world, which can be really preoccupied with logic, the importance of emotion is easily lost. Logic gives us the facts which are important, while emotion shows us what is in our best interests. Emotion has been described as packets of rapid intelligence. Our emotional brain holds a wealth of information which it delivers to our awareness at lightning speed. And we depend on these packets of intelligence to stay safe and motivated and connected to the tribe. Take a potentially life-threatening situation. Kerry is walking along a garden path when she comes across a brown snake. Vital information about the threat is processed by her emotion system about 12 milliseconds before Kerry's cognitive mind catches up. Kerry automatically springs back out of harm's way. Before her logical brain even knows what's happening, Kerry's emotional brain has saved her life. But of course, emotion is good for more than saving us from snakes. When faced with any challenge, emotion kicks off the emotion process, which enables us to solve problems and get our needs met. Let's use a present-day problem to show how the emotion process works. Leon meets the school bully, which kicks off his pain alarm, fear, alerting him that his need for protection is at risk of not being met. Now at home, Leon's parents respond positively to his emotion. So Leon's emotion, including his impulses to act on his emotion, is encoded in his brain as a resource. So, driven by his pain alarm, Leon takes productive action and punches the bully in the nose. As a result, his need for protection is met and his pain alarm subsides. Here's another example of a present-day event triggering the pain alarm, which kicks off the emotion process. Krishna loses his job, so his pain alarm rings out with lonely sadness, which points to an unmet need for connection. He feels shame, which is signalling an unmet need for validation, and fear, which alerts Krishna that his safety may be at risk. But because emotion is encoded in Krishna's brain as a resource, he is driven by his pain alarm to take positive action. Krishna follows his impulse to reach out to friends and family for support. And because Krishna does not feel the need to repress or hide his emotions, these vulnerable emotions also draw others to him. As a result, Krishna's needs are met. Friends and family provide comfort, which meets his need for connection, reassurance, which meets his need for validation. And his mum offers to cover Krishna's rent for a few weeks while he finds a new job. This meets his need for protection. Now, because his needs are met, Krishna's pain alarm stops ringing. And as Tori Olds explains, what follows is a sense of triumph and empowerment. So the emotion process enables us to get our present-day needs met. But what about when the pain alarm is alerting us to unmet needs from the past, like in the case of living memories? Well, here's an example of how living memories can be repaired naturally in everyday life thanks to the emotion process. Let's return to Julian, who was often criticised by his father. One day, Julian is talking politics when his wife Sarah disagrees with something he says. This innocent present-day event triggers his pain alarm. Julian feels a burst of sadness, which is alerting him to his past unmet need for connection. And he feels shame, which is pointing to his unmet need for validation from his dad. Now, suppose Julian's been working with a therapist, and now he recognises his pain alarm for what it is. A good thing, a resource that's giving him an opportunity to get his needs met. So instead of blaming Sarah and flying into a rage like he used to, Julian lets his pain alarm do its job so that the emotion process can run through to completion. Julian allows that deep feeling of shame to remain, and it motivates him to open up with his wife about the feeling. He even tells her about some of his painful childhood experiences. Now, to Julian's surprise, Sarah doesn't back away as he thought she would, and she doesn't show disappointment or disgust. Instead, Sarah is touched by his vulnerability and comes closer. She gives Julian a loving embrace and reassures him how important he is to her. Her compassionate response disconfirms Julian's faulty beliefs about how unworthy he is, and it begins to meet his past need for connection and validation. Over the next few weeks, Julian continues to allow his emotion process to complete, and so he encounters Sarah's loving kindness again. Julian now experiences a sense of triumph and empowerment as his emotion gradually changes from shame to confidence. So, as you can see, when emotion is encoded in the brain as a resource, we automatically respond positively to the pain alarm, which drives the emotion process through to completion. And as a bonus, these positive, empowering experiences of emotion also reinforce right down to the level of our nervous system that emotion is there not to harm, but to help. So how does the mind heal? First, the pain alarm alerts us to our unmet needs. Second, the emotion process drives us to get these needs met, which third creates an opportunity for our living memories to be transformed. 3 automatic processes which work together to get the job done. Key points. The mind is already equipped with the processes needed to facilitate healing. Emotions are like packets of rapid intelligence, which give us information that is necessary for our survival and well-being. When emotion is encoded in the brain as a resource, the emotion process is free to run through to completion, which results in problems getting solved and needs being met. Questions. How do you respond to difficult emotions? So, if the mind is already equipped with the processes needed to create change, what's the problem? Why do so many of us still struggle with anxiety, depression, addictions, and other disorders? Well, the problem is, due to traumatic life experiences, emotion becomes encoded in our brain not as a resource, but as a threat. As a result, so many of us do not respond to the pain alarm positively, and this blocks the emotion process. So our needs remain unmet, healing is prevented, and all sorts of other painful symptoms and disorders are born. In a nutshell, when the emotion process is not able to run through to completion, we have to put up with so much unnecessary suffering. So in chapter 3, which begins in the next video, we're going to fully unpack this problem so that in chapter 4, we'll be ready to do something about it. So feel free to head over to chapter 3 now, or keep watching if you want something more on today's topic. Want more? Have you ever had a stranger come up to you in the street to ask directions? If so, you might have noticed that your emotions about the stranger kicked in before your thoughts had caught up. Perhaps you felt a burst of unease before you fully realised what was happening. This is because incoming information has further to travel to get to our thinking brain than to our emotional brain. So the electrical signal reaches our emotional brain first. One of the purposes of emotion is to keep us connected to others. For example, when we're really sad or distressed, water and goo literally flow from our face to show others our need for comfort and connection. As a result, most people automatically come close with compassion and kindness. Both the crying and the coming close are wired in responses which help humans to meet each other's needs, in particular our need for deep connection. Now, we can see the power of this response at work in prisoners who were subjected to a form of torture, where the sound of a crying baby was played continuously over the prison loudspeakers. This sound put the prisoners into a state of great distress because there was no way to act on their innate drive to attend to the needs of the baby. What's more, I find it amazing that the frequencies that our ears are most sensitive to are really loud in the sound of a baby's cry. This means that their cry cuts through the surrounding noise to immediately grab our attention so that we can quickly respond with comfort and connection.